Okay, so the question is, what do you think the biggest disconnect in our society today is, and how do we solve this issue?
I think the biggest disconnect is people not communicating with each other on the level in the way that we're all human. Maybe one potential solution is actually just to talk to each other more, have honest conversations about how we're feeling, and really not let it all out on social media, but get together with people in your community, people who you love, people in your family, and just lift them up.
One of the things that we have to work on is how we raise children.
Communication, like just being able to express yourself, and not only express yourself through your own unique abilities and your talents, but to also communicate with people who don't look like you, who don't come from where you come from, who don't understand.
Every generation hates the next. Like, we hate Gen Alpha. That is true. That is true. For existing. For existing. And then millennials hate us, and then whatever's above them hates them.
Like people who don't believe in the Lord, or even people who worship the devil. They try to push the ideologies onto other people.
I think the right word to use is moral compass. Like, you know what I mean? Being religious stuff, it teaches you a lot of good things. And if we have more people that like kind of went by those rules, then I feel like we'd be a little better off than we are.
Nowadays, the social media, all the interconnection we have in the society, that you cannot just disconnect and be yourself as you want, but you're always you have to appear for someone else.
You want to be in my video, good sir? My question, hey. The question is, hey, come back.
Social media is in reality. They're not really in tune with reality now because social media is controlling the human brain.
It's taken over everything.
Yeah. And it's making our society feel like everyone has to be like each other to be accepted and loved and happy.
People having a hard time, facing reality sometimes, especially with all the internet stuff, which is cool, but sometimes they're trying to, focus on being one thing.
Yeah.
It's really another. Be yourself, dude.
It's a dangerous direction.
Be yourself.
I think the biggest disconnect in our society is that people lack empathy for one another. I think people are so focused on identifying with a certain group or picking a side and sticking to it that they forget that we're all human and we all feel and we all are a product of our environments and our experiences. And I think if we just took time to feel each other and understand each other as humans, not as the labels that we put on ourselves, then we'd all experience a little more peace.
I think there's a lot of social services that help people, but they don't tackle the underlying issues like education, like financial education, sexual education. You can't help people without telling them what not to do and how to live their lives in a prosperous and good way.
I think within the classes, like within like wealth classes, like you're rich versus poor. That includes like other countries as well. I think, especially what's happening, like the war and everything, and then having like the war going on at the same time, like the Met Gala is going on, and like, do you know about like the ice purse?
Yeah.
Whole thing? I think that's a huge disconnect. While there's people who are literally dying and starving, and then we have these people who are so wealthy that they can buy an ice purse for $75,000. I think is a huge disconnect. And I think like to fix it, I couldn't even answer that. It's like corruption, like it's just in greed. It's like a big thing. I feel like it's not a simple answer, I guess, or not something that I could answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's a lack of respect and like humane. I think.
Like just between people.
Yeah, like people not holding open the door, not saying please and thank you, or just being rude. I want to say
Yeah, if we're gonna go with respect, you can say like the only way that you can really fix that is I think a lot of it comes from your upbringing, right? From like
how you're raised, like who teaches you how to be respectful, how to be a decent person. I think a lot of that plays into like not only just immediately in your early childhood, but like into when you're an adult. Like how you're raised just has a big sway on who you are as a person. So.
The biggest disconnection in our society, humans. How do we solve it? Communication.
Able to communicate with each other without being attached to our customs, our heritage, or our religions. Just being able to talk to, communicate to each other as human beings. So I think that's one aspect definitely improve on.
The generation, the older generation and new generation, you know what I'm saying? They did stuff one way and we doing stuff another way. They way ain't gonna work in these days. Everything high price. We grew up different. The world is different. So that's the biggest disconnect. We ain't really came together and, you know what I'm saying, we're not helping each other out. They not helping us out. We're not helping them out.
I think the biggest disconnect is that we've made money our God, and money isn't God. You know what I mean? Like me, I'm a Christian man, so I feel like the base is always God. If you're not centered with that, then you're always going to fail regardless. If we can never get back to that, everyone loving on one another, we'll be all right. But when everybody's just, out here living for the world, trying to, who can get the most designer, who can get the most money, we'll never be connected again. But if we can people can get connected to God, we'll be good.
It's so much of this fake world on social media, and these people is not living their real lives. They just living in this fantasy, showing that, they live in this life, but they're really not in real life. So I feel like that's the biggest disconnect, because people's not really being true to themselves.
They're worried about trying to, keep up with certain things rather than like focus on what they actually have going on in their personal lives.
I feel like some people be in competition with each other. Like they don't feel like we can all, make it. Like they trying to do better than the next person. Especially social media too. I feel like
social media is a big part of what's going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? It's really deterring our generations. You know what I'm saying? It ain't uplifting. It is a little uplifting. It can be a lot, but at the same time, being on it so long and not, entertaining your real life can, take away what's going on.
I feel like the biggest disconnect in society is people not tapping into the spiritual realm, whether it's like, their own religion or just through like connection with the universe, what have you, whatever your God, you want to call him whatever name, him, her, whatever pronoun, I don't really care. But it just be like, I feel like people need to remember who God is, and that's why they all violent right now. You know what I'm saying? Like people really just are losing sight of like what it really means to be human and what it means to be a king or a queen or a god or a goddess. And it is like, if you don't remember the latter, you can't elevate either. And I feel like it is, it's really sad because it's making like all of humanity point in the wrong direction. Like people are more concerned about like who's watching them shake their ass instead of like help their cousin eat when they starving to death or something like that. Or like niggas want to smoke with you instead of like help you eat if you starving. Like even like teamwork right now is like fucking impossible. Like niggas is always arguing over stupid shit, and it's never worth it. But it is like everybody's like so traumatized in our generation. But I feel like we're also the generation that is most conscious of it. But it is because it's like everyone's studying like psychology and trauma and why they're so fucked up in the head, but they not reading their Bible, Quran, or their, whatever book they read it, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like love is the answer, is the truth. Like, stop trying to be the hoodest, coldest nigga or the baddest bitch. Like, you need to remember Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad. Like, I feel like we need to start remembering like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, even though all of them had flaws in history, but it's like at least we could look at what they did and try to imitate that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the answer.
My answer is, I say like empathy, and they lack self-improvement. Like nobody really wants to do more. I mean, to me, people my age is like content. They're only making $18 an hour. That's less than $1,000 a week. And then with taxes, that's nothing. And with the empathy is like people lack the understanding of like how other people are. Like somebody could do the same thing that you do, and for some reason you're just so upset about it, although you do the same thing. You have to take a step back and look at the third person in every situation and have better understanding of each other.
The biggest disconnect in our society is not feeling accepted when we're hurting. Like I think certain people, they judge themselves and they expect themselves to heal from certain situations so fast. But I have this thing that I came up with over the years is that people who love hard heal slow. And sometimes when you love so hard and you take so many wounds, it's difficult to love yourself during that process because you love so many other people so hard during those years that it's hard for you to love yourself in the same way. So that's pretty much it.
People are worshiping money and status and power rather than worshiping themselves or like their family or their spirit. I feel like we put a lot of value on our relationships, like monetary value on our relationships. So it's like we're only friends with people or we only date people if they feel like they can bring something to us monetarily. You know, like you got the women looking for sugar daddies and men looking for sugar mamas. Yeah, I feel like we need to shift our focus from like material and monetary gain and refocus on like the spiritual side of ourselves. Refocus on like healing our soul and healing our trauma, especially for like people of color, like learning how to heal our trauma and heal the generational issues that have plagued us, rather than focusing on like winning at this game that someone else created for us. You know, we gotta create our own game.
Yeah.
Abrahamic religions, that Judaism, Christianity, Islam, the havoc they have wreaked for the past 1,700 or so years, especially in relation to Christianity. Islam with their jihads, so-called holy wars, all that type of stuff.
I'd say definitely information. Like,
are you saying like
what's what's true and what's not? Like someone can be like, the sky's blue, but I can be like, no, I went on Google and I saw that it's actually green.
Everybody thinks they're good at researching, but everybody has their different way of doing research and what's credible and what's not.
Yeah, just forming an argument doesn't mean that you're right.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll let you answer. So, in my opinion, one of the biggest disconnects I think in our community is the tie between us and the new generation. And I think just going down the line, that has been, as time goes, it just gets further and further. I think to what my husband is saying is the biggest disconnect in society is probably around traditional solutions, ancient wisdom, where we're always celebrating the convenience or the evolution of convenience, which actually makes us less smarter than we expect based on the outcomes, where we're not sustainable. And so we see that in failing infant and mortality rates, where even women are not familiar with how to birth with their own bodies because they're unfamiliar, and at this point being even more confused by gender. So I believe that degeneration of language as well as traditional practices is causing a big problem.